The three are very important ones. The first two, goat production in the tropics. And the second one, small farm systems, are particularly important pathfinders. In the first case, such a book has never been published before that brings together the biology, the production and development angle. And it's now become very much a benchmark in many universities and colleges. As a matter of fact, one particular country even wrote to ASM and asked, can we translate the book to our advantage? Of course, ASM said no. The second one is even more telling, a very definitive, defining book, Small Farm Systems in Asia. I don't know how many of you know that we have approximately 2 million small farms, seluruh dunia, whole over the world, defined as any farm that's below 2 hectares of land. 87% of them are found in Asia. It's a huge number. Those farms are becoming smaller and smaller and smaller because of heritage. The problem, however, is lack of cohesiveness, lack of cooperative development, and I felt compelled to explain this very rich Asian experience in this book. I also felt compelled to do it because there's a very clouded judgment in the West about what constitutes a small farm. In the West, people talk about family farm. A family farm, by definition, is somebody going off for the weekend with their kids, throwing a hook and something, picking up some flowers, coming back home on Sunday. That's not a small farm. That's a family farm, a retreat, a kind of a picnic ground. Here, the small farm is a very, very exclusive component of our lives. And they're suffering, these people. I don't know how many of you ever sat back at the end of the day and asked, where does this food come from? Where does this food come from? Be it lunch, be it dinner. Where does this food come from? You'll be surprised to know that 70% of what you eat comes from these guys. These guys who sweat, toil the ground, sweat so hard to turn the food to you. Yet we have done so little for them. So this particular book is a very important pathfinder in terms of fully describing what needs to be done and how to revitalize them. They're very precious commodities, these people, just that we don't understand them. So small farms systems was very pleasing to bring out. I can honestly tell you also that this book is very highly sought after. In fact, for the record, Nietzsche in particular, I had a discreet inquiry from the Bill Gates and Melinda Foundation about the book. In fact, the narration was Bill Gates was going to Washington. I believe we got this book. What do you think we should tell him that he can take to Washington for this book? Which I didn't answer. But as I say, it's a very discreet inquiry, no names mentioned, so I don't know what happened to whatever. But we are obliged to help these people, and I'd like to use some keywords to describe them. Deprivation, isolation, survival, subsistence, illiteracy. All this made together a small farm. And they're very, very poor, desperate people. Our task is to bring them out of poverty, away from the terrible situation that they are in. And I think we can bring them out of poverty through food security, better use of agriculture, and so on. It's a mission that we need to fulfill. It's very, very important. I started off my professional career in New Zealand. My first degree was from New Zealand. A gentleman by the name of Professor I.E. Coop, a very famous, renowned individual, somehow had a big impact on me from the word go. So ever so often he'd say, if you have time, come and work with me in the research lab, which I used to do over the weekend as a private scholar. I used to get 5 shillings per hour those days. And I worked for him, and I became rather fond of looking at sheep in this case. And to the credit of Professor Coop, He went on to deliver and breed to what is known today as the Coopworth breed of sheep. Coopworth breed of sheep is 62% of all of New Zealand's sheep in the country. I don't know how many of you know that there are more sheep in New Zealand than people. That's one side of the story. So I finished my work with sheep, or I was helping with sheep, came back to Malaysia, and I was thinking to myself, how can I contribute to what needs to be done? But of course, in Malaysia, sheep are not important. They're very so small numbers, simply because if you've got a too warm a tropical climate, sheep is not a good fit. So my thoughts then turned to goats, and I then began to look at what do we know about goats. And I came to 4 important conclusions. Number 1, the goat is a developing country animal. 97% of the world population are found in developing countries. Number 2, the biodata, the base data on the animal was next to nothing. So little information. Number 3, it had lots of tendencies about helping poor people because it's found in very harsh, dry environments like northeast of Malaysia. And the 4th was the fact that it represented a huge challenge in terms of opportunities for R&D. So that started me off, and I can also happily tell you that the first ever energy requirement for maintenance were defined in Malaysia. Up till today, that's the first ever benchmark. So from there onwards, it was just a matter of going up and up and up. I took that literally the animal with me. So from New Zealand to Malaysia, I finished my master's focusing on goats, carried on to Nottingham, the UK, and Nottingham, something else happened which I can only put my hand in the direction of the good Lord who guided me. I went there to do my PhD, but I met a gentleman who I've been in touch with, the late Mr. J.P. Moore, Director of the Commonwealth Bureau of Animal Breeding and Genetics. He told me, Dave, I'd like you to make me a promise. Sir, what promise can I do? Can I make? If I can, I'll certainly do it. I would like you to promise that before you leave England with your PhD, that you'll complete the book, Goat Production in the Tropics. So I told myself, how can I do that? I've got to do my PhD, and this may not be to write the book. I reported this to my professor, Louis, my second mentor, and he said, Dave, can you do it? I said, yes, sir, I can. So he told me one thing. I tell you what, if you can do it, I'm going to make available my secretary for all their drafts, typing and so on. It's an amazing way of being helpful. So every night I used to work on my PhD up to 8 o'clock at night, switch my hands and move on to goats, and I completed the book in record time. Both the PhD and the book were written simultaneously at 2 years and 8 months time. So I left happily the shores of UK, and I found a letter on my table. We would like to offer you a job in the University of the West Indies in Trinidad, which I did go and spend 4 years there. Then Tan Sri Anwar said, no, you got to come back to Malaysia and help. So I was back and helped Mahdi for the better part of about 14 years. And at that time, the work continued relentlessly, to the point that in 1984, I applied for the first time, historically, no Malaysian has done it, called the DSC by application, not honorary, by application. It's a very stringent award. So I got the DSC. The Canadian government said, please come and help us to set up projects for Malaysia and the Asian countries that you did. And so I moved on from there, and ultimately from the Canadian government IDRC to the International Livestock Research Institute until I finished my term model. I spent about 30 plus years in international animal agriculture. Yes, this was extremely heartwarming because it came completely out of the blue. I never expected it, but again, maybe as humbled as I am, as a consequence, I think God has been very kind to me. I've certainly been blessed. The award is called the International Animal Agriculture Award. It's given once every 4 years. This is the third of its kind. The first was the Canadian, the second was the German, and the third, so first Asian and first person from the developing countries to get it. So it's a very humbling award. I like to feel that whatever has been done in the past has been enriching, obviously, has been taken care of, has been taken note of, rather, and I feel good by it. But part of the glories are not mine. I want to emphasize this. The glories go back to the thousands of people that I've worked with in the past, through so many countries over time. These people, the generosity of kindness, teas and whatever, discussions, the ideas, the traditions. My colleagues from the region, the camaraderie of colleagues all around the region, everybody has been very helpful in putting the package together. It's been a wonderful experience. So I share mine, whatever I got with all my colleagues. It's not mine, personally. We have a big problem. It's a huge problem, which unfortunately is underestimated. On the one hand, we will never meet the targets of the requirement for food because population increase is bursting, rapidly going up. The pace of development is far greater than supply from animals. Number one. Number two, between the two, energy and protein. The problem with protein is even more serious. Protein from animals. Inability to meet the targets also means that we are not clever. Science has not developed adequately, particularly climate science has not developed adequately to catch up. But that's not to say that we don't have answers. Today is one of those unusual days where everything is dry, I don't know why. That's not to say that we don't have answers. As a matter of fact, we do have answers. In the Malaysian context, agriculture, the bywords, the keywords in the Ministry of Agriculture too, transformation and innovation. I believe they're missing out on one word, other word, that is the revitalization. I want to specifically single out an opportunity that we have, that we are not using it to our advantage. It's a win-win situation that involves the presence of 4.1 million hectares of land under oil palm. Tremendous. Together in Indonesia we produce 87% of the world's output of oil, palm oil. Look at it this way. You got the crop, with the crop you got the total biomass, mixed feeds, browse, legumes, grasses. You also have byproducts from the feeds, byproducts from the crop. The theory of it is integration. Integration means A plus B is better than A alone or B alone. Failure to integrate animals with this 4.9 million hectares is a very, very sad loss. There was splendid opportunity to substantially increase output of beef, output of goat meat if you like, or kambing, or sheep, but we are not doing this. Simply because we are being not smart, I would say. So there's an opportunity missed. And I think we can set the pace substantially by entering that in terms of more investments, more science, and that way we can reduce the dependence on imports, spending money and bringing animals and tackle from outside. So that's another huge opportunity. The other opportunity is to look at what we've already done. I'm not so convinced that all the work that we've done in the past in research terms, in all our research institutes, universities and other centers, that these will actually be put to application. I have a suspicion from my own observations that the bulk of it has been shelved over time. That's never come down. Come down for a variety of reasons, partly because of poor linkages between researcher and the extension people, and failure of the researchman in this case to work with the farmer to deliver the goods. The old story of I do my work, it's up to Akma to take it to the field or somebody else to take my field. That's not the issue. The issue is how can I work with Akma, with somebody else, the farmer, and work together to deliver the goods. Deliver the goods over time that can make significant impact. That farmer, researcher, extension link is missing, and we need to change our thinking. Related to this is also the issue of far too much work on what I call component technology. In other words, let's look at why the rice variety is short. Let's look at it in terms of one particular botanical issue. No. To look at it, you must look at it broadly. The totality of rice, where is it grown, the environment, so on, so on, so on. The failure to look at it in terms of systems is another failure. So we have some redressing to do. I think we got to go back and look carefully at, again, 3 words if I might use: relevance, problem identification, priority setting. 3 pathways: relevance, problem identification, priority setting. If these things are not understood and followed pathways, I don't think we'll ever make the grade.